Hi and welcome to the video. In this lesson I will teach you Stevie Ray Vaughan's Scuttle Buttin. It's a 12-bar blues in the key of E, and the lesson is going to be divided into 4 parts. The first part, I'm going to break down the main riff. I'm going to teach it to you step by step and show you alternate ways to play it. The second part, we're going to discuss the structure of the blues, 12-bar blues, the chords a little bit, and some theory behind it. Afterwards, we're going to continue to the third part, where I'm going to give you an exercise to basically get the groove of the song down into your feel and your fingers and everything. And then I'm going to give you some licks and phrases which you can fit onto that groove. The purpose of that exercise is to get you going with your own phrases and licks and put them in context, in musical context of the blues and the style of the tune. The fourth and final part will be a little bit about tone, guitar setting, amp setting, and your general sound and how to approach it. So let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is get familiar with the scale we're playing, right? We're playing an E minor pentatonic. So if I look at the notes, it's a 5-note scale. We have E, G, A, B, D, and E, and then repeated an octave up. Alright, so now that we have the scale under the fingers, let's look at the riff itself. We start off with the 3rd string, 2nd fret, the A note, and the 2nd finger. So we do a slide up to the B note, the 4th fret, like so. Then we play the 2nd and 1st string open, like so. Then back to the 2nd string open. A slide from the 3rd fret to the 5th fret, the D to the E. And then play the 1st string open. Then we take the 3rd finger, place it on the D note on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. Pull off onto the 3rd string, 3rd fret, the A sharp note, pull it off to the A note, and then from there pull off to the 3rd string open, the G note, and then back to the E note, the tonic, the 4th string, 2nd fret. So very slowly the riff will go like this. Sound the 6th string, the bass, play an E7th sharp 9 chord. Notice that when I play it, I mute the 4th string and have my pinky flattened on the 3rd fret there to get the 9th there. Now, the way you count the riff is if I were to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It will go on the offbeat of the 1st quarter. So it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. so that's the time that you're looking at. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so just after the 1, it's the 8th note of the offbeat right there. Once we're done with the main melody theme, it's going to go back to the rhythm pattern. And the rhythm pattern is going to go like this. It's an E7 sharp 9 as we saw before. The way I'm going to play it, slowly it's going like this. So we have a bass, the 6th string open, the E note, the chord, the bass again, twice on the chord, up and down, sorry, down and up, then the 6th string open, and then another strum downwards. So very slowly like this. Okay, so if I count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, da, ga, da, 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 da. It's that rhythmic pattern that flows throughout the tune. So 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so on and so forth. The chords throughout the tune will be an A7th, and it will get exactly the same treatment as the chord before, except that the bass note this time will be the 5th string open, so nothing has changed except the bass. The way I'm fingering this is I'm basically muting the 3rd string because I already have the 7th on top, the G note. So the timing stays the same, everything stays the same. The 3rd chord will be a B7th sharp 9. Now there's a little bit of a trick here because it's not straight through just like that. We're going to alternate the bass. We're going to start off with the B note on the 5th string, and then go down to the F sharp, and we get the effect like this. Okay? And you can play around with it and see what fits, what you like most. There's plenty of ways to play it rhythmically, where you change the bass, but the way I like to do it is sort of on time. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, bum, bum, bum. Okay, you can do it like that or any other way that fits your taste and style. So now that we have the rhythmic pattern and the riff down, let's glue it together into one thing. So I'll count it up slowly and I'll play the whole thing one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, and when we get to the last bar, we go, instead of the regular, okay, we delay the last strum like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so it continues on to the next riff because it goes on twice. So essentially 24 bars before the solo starts. Okay, and one last important thing before we move on to the second part will be alternate ways of playing the same melodic theme. Now, Stevie Ray Vaughan himself plays it differently a lot of time when he plays it live. For instance, the first thing you can do is, if you look at the A going into the B, there's two ways you can do it. You can basically slide inside to the B, or if you want, you can bend the A note to the B. And then if you do that, you have the same option with the second string, the D note, going into the E. Instead of sliding into it, you can bend into the E. Now, it can sound a little bit more aggressive, I guess, powerful maybe, but you need to understand that you can choose, and to your own liking, whatever you like. And you can combine them. For instance, you don't have to bend both. You can bend one and slide on the second, or slide on the first and bend the second. Okay, so in this part, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on behind the riff in terms of some theory and the chords and how you want to approach it when you improvise. Now, essentially, we have a 12-bar blues. Now, in the blues, we have the three chords that we talked about, you know, the E7th, the A7th, and the B7th. But we can also refer to it as a tonic, subdominant, and a dominant. Now, the first degree, which is the tonic, usually, if this was a regular major scale, it would be a major 7th chord. But in the blues, we take it as a dominant 7th chord. The fourth degree gets the same treatment. Instead of it being a major 7th chord as you would expect in a major scale, it gets a dominant 7, a flattened 7th, and that makes it an A7th. Fourth degree, subdominant. The fifth is a dominant anyhow, so it stays the same, except that in this tune it has a sharp 9 added to it. All right, and so does the tonic. It has a sharp 9. Now, this is very common in the blues because we play over the E7th. Sorry, we play the E minor pentatonic, which means that instead of your regular, if you look at an E major, you would have a G sharp as your third. When we play the minor blues scale, the E minor pentatonic, we play a G natural. Now, that's not to say that we cannot play the G sharp. We can play it, and we do play it. But the sound of this particular tune, the Scuttle Buttin, it has the sharp 9. And sometimes you'll see Stevie Ray Vaughan, when he plays it, he will go and play the G sharp. Okay, and you can combine the G sharp and the G natural in your playing while you're on the E. Okay, you will get a different sound, the major and the minor. It's sort of cool to experiment with it. Now, before we move on, just a few key things. When you improvise, you obviously can improvise over the entire 12 bars using the minor pentatonic, and it will work fine, and it will sound good. That's all good and right, and that's cool. But if you want to get a little bit more deeper and into the harmony and chords, I suggest that you start thinking in terms of momentarily tonics. For instance, when I go to the A, I want to emphasize that A. I want to bring out the notes of that A alongside with the father scale, what I call the E minor pentatonic. For instance, is the father scale here, or the mother scale, I want to call it. But when you hop over to the A7th, you want to get that A sound as well. You want to get maybe using a triad with a 7th, for example, like, right? I'm playing the 1, 3, 5, and 7 of the chord. Now this is very important if you want to get deeper into improvisation. You have to know harmonically where you are and then melodically fit it onto the harmony. Now a great and easy tool is using triads. So if I'm on the A chord, for instance, I have this A triad over here, and I can use it in my improvisation. So if I go 1, 2 from the beginning, so all I did there was going to the triad, and essentially I get the sound of the A. Now you can combine that with the mother or father scale, the minor pentatonic of the tune you're in. So we're not going to go too deep to that in this lesson. We will in some next lessons, but start checking it out, okay? If you are in a chord, try to find the triads, the sound that make the particular chord, and then mix it with the father-mother scale, okay? You call the mother or father, I don't know, whichever you want. And then, if, for instance, if you're on E, okay, I'm using sounds from the major, because the chord itself is a major, but I want to combine it with the minor. So, for instance, something on the E can be like this. Okay, you combine two sounds, and that's great for improvisations, particularly for this style, because Steve himself did it all the time. Okay, so now to the fun part. You know the riff, you know the chords behind it, and now I'm going to give you something cool to play around with. Now, if we look at the riff inside the structure of the whole tune, basically you can think of it riff, chord, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Let's say we take the riff out, okay? And we just are left with the chords. So it will look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, once you have this going, you have the groove, everything is cool, and the gaps you have, where originally the riff was, start placing your own phrases, start making phrases from the pentatonic scale, from the triads we talked about earlier, from anything that sounds good to you. The most important thing is that A, it will sound good in terms of harmony and obviously melodically and rhythmically, but the most important thing is to be on time when you set out to do the lick and then when you go back to the riff. What I mean is the gap has to work exactly like the riff. It goes into and out from the rhythm plane. So an example of it would be something like this. Okay, so let's see how this works in practice. For instance, let's take a riff like this. It's just a common run on an E chord. Now, I don't have to play it exactly like this, but what I do aim for is I want to take this concept and I want to place it in the gap between the rhythms that I play, and I want to build something from it on the improvisations. So I start off by playing the rhythm and then leaving the gap so I can feel the groove and the time. And then after a few times, I have it in my head and everything, I start adding in the lick until I feel that it sits and I can move on to a different lick. So that's how you do it. times until I feel comfortable in that zone. Okay, so to get deeper into this sort of thing, what I want to do is I want to take a second lick and then play just that until it sits in my fingers and in my ear and everything, and eventually combine it with the first lick into one big lick. Now, before we do that, we have to make sure that each of the licks sits well within the rhythm and that the time is not lost. So just a reminder, the first one we had, okay? The second one we're going to add is going to be like this. And what I'll do there is I'll place it in the correct spot for it to work on the rhythm. So it will be like this. Okay, so you get the idea. You want to get as many licks and as many phrases work in this manner. Now, I want to combine the two and make it into one big lick. Now, obviously, the gap will have to be bigger, so I'll have to end up on time and go back into the chord. And out from the chord, I have to go out on time as well. So just to make sure we understand, we're on the same spot, the two licks combined will be something like this. Right now it's necessary that you get the concept and the idea, and then you can develop it on your own. Not necessarily play exactly what I play, but get it inside your fingers in your head, and then you'll be able to do whatever you want to do with it. It will help you to develop yourself as a player, as a musician. So let's start off slowly. Now, the last one I played didn't quite sit well time-wise, so I'm going to do it again to improve it and to make it sit well the way I see it. All right, and then slowly up the tempo. Okay, and what I did there is I went on to the A and played a lick, and then on the structure of the blues. That's the next step. You want to take it on the entire blues structure. After you've done each and every chord by itself, and you've done quite a few licks, and you have those under your belt, in your toolbox, so to speak, you want to take the blues at the normal tempo and do this exercise. And let me tell you, this is one of the best exercises that you'll ever get to play. It basically works on everything. It works on musicality, which is the most important thing. It works on technique, it works on sound, and all those things put together are what makes you a player, a good player, a musician, and that's what you want to aspire and aim for. Okay, so for this last part, I want to talk a little bit about tone and how to get that particular tone, or at least the way I see it. I think in general, the main sound that you're aiming for is a clean but slightly broken up clean. So a little bit overdriven maybe. It's a matter of taste, of course, but in general, that's the main thing you're looking for. Not too many effects. I play without any effects, and I add sometimes reverb, but other than that, it's very straightforward, nothing special there. I think you should work on dynamic range with your right hand. You want to be able to pick, to really get into the string, you know, you want to really get... You want to be able to do that, you know, you dig in the string, get that sound. Be accurate with your left hand on the notes you play, and it's very important. vibrato and bending. You want to bend up to the correct note. You want to bend up correctly, not too sharp, not too flat. You know, that's things that you can work on. You know, for guitars, I guess it's pretty straightforward to go with a Stratocaster. That's not to say that a Les Paul type of guitar or Telecaster type of guitar would not work. They would. But if you're particularly into Stevie Ray Vaughan, I would probably go with a Strat. You know, experiment with the pickup settings. You want to maybe place it on the neck. You know, just take a riff or a lick and experiment with how it sounds. You know, if you take something like a, that's the neck sound. If you bring it down one step, it'll give you this sort of sound, and it's the middle and in between. You know, if you go to the bridge, so you know, you have to experiment like on things like that. The last bit, I guess, is the choice of your amp. To me, it's very simple. I found an amp that's not too complicated. You know, it's tube-based, and then I want to get that you know, slightly broken up clean sound, overdriven a little bit maybe, and you can experiment with those settings and you know, get your tone. Eventually, your fingers and hands and everything will come together, and it will tune to what you hear in your head, and that will work as one unit. And I guess the last thing is that listen as much as you can for that tone, for players you like. You know, if it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, then you know the songs, know the tunes, learn them as much as you can. Get a lot of info on what gear he used, and just you know, try to get it down and work on it. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.